Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime Making 2. And today I'm going to be giving you part 8 of What If Naruto Rewrote the Past. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to with your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, remember to stay tuned for the brand new episodes coming over in Anime Making 3 and Anime King. Yes, you heard that right if you're new. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, and Anime King 3, which I post out in front of every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about all of you. So yeah, without further ado, let us begin this new episode. Start the intro. So, the last part that we left off, Naruto told Mikoto everything about his time and where he was from. Surprisingly, she took it with strife, as the Hokage must have trusted Naruto for a reason. After all, if he was telling a lie, the Hokage would make him his right-hand man. But it was a lot, as she had to wrap her mind around it for a while. But as the time went by, the marriage came along, and the both of them got married. As Jiraiya was there, with his first copy of his HH book, to give Naruto to read it. As Naruto made a joke that he would give Mikoto and Kushina looked over as well. As Jiraiya thought about that, as he took back his book and ran away, afraid of what those two might do to him. As Naruto went to speak with Mikoto, as things were different, she realized that from Fukaku and her. As Naruto was nowhere near the same man as Fukaku. As Fukaku would use his chance to take the power all to himself, but Naruto wasn't like that. Not to mention he didn't know that much about that clan. But, like that, a year and a half passed. As Naruto got an apprentice, it was Uncle. As Uncle had lost her parents at her early age. She didn't remember, but she swore that she had a sister. But she was too young to remember. As Naruto and Mikoto wanted to adopt the girl, but if they did, she could no longer be Naruto's pupil. So, they laid off as Uncle was okay with being a Midarashi. When she accidentally called them mother and father, she was apologizing, seeing that she turned on their proposal. But they told her that it was okay, so every now and then, she called them mother and father. As Minato also got his team that consists of Obito, yes, Kakashi and Ren. As Naruto was like this star in their eyes, well, Kakashi, as he saw Naruto as a pillar of strength, he said that he was the strongest person that he knew. He hasn't seen his father Hokage fight yet, so he'd not counting them. And also Obito respected Naruto for what he was doing with the clan, as many people were admiring Naruto in the Uchiha clan. He came in there and broke down the wall. As many Uchihas can go outside now and live in the village, they no longer have to restrain themselves to the clan. As this was working well, him and Fukaku had some, well, they didn't often agree to the same things, but Naruto made it work. Hiruzen wanted Naruto to take 2 more members on his team though, with things he'd knock out there. As Uncle was just 8 years old, but because of Naruto training she was able to surpass the exams rather quickly, as she became a genin. As Hiruzen wanted Naruto to take a Kurama boy, and also Yujiro. As when Yujiro heard that she was gonna be taught by the great Naruto Uchiha, right-hand man of the Hokage, she was shocked, as the thought was a bit frightening. But that explained why Uncle was smiling at her ever since she stepped in the class. The girl seemed to already know. So yeah guys, was basically last we left off. You guys can switch across the place, check it out for yourself. So this will be in this new episode. Naruto grinned as he walked behind his new team. They were on their way to Training Ground 7, otherwise known as his home away from home. Most of the time, teams were assigned their own individual ground number that matched their team number. But Team 7 was reserved for the special cases. Hiruzen's old team was Team 7, and Jiraiya's old team was Team 7 as well. Strangely enough, Minato was Team 5. but Kushina was on Team 7. After Kushina graduated, there was no longer any Team 7 until now. For some reason, Naruto could have sworn that Kakashi was on Team 7 in his time, but instead they were on Team 6 that was still in rotation from the last graduation. He watched his uncle chat away with Ucheo as the girl was listening to her. Takia was a step or two behind them. He was listening but he was not commenting. Other than telling his team to head for a training ground, he hadn't said a word yet. He noticed Ucheo was sneaking in many glances, Takia doing the same thing. But neither of them had said a word or tried to approach him in any way. He had a number of guesses as to why, but for now he chalked it up to them being extremely nervous around him. Thankfully, Uncle was as talkative as she was otherwise. The silence thing would have been a bit awkward. Upon arrival, Uncle hopped over as she sat down in the middle of the small clearing, as she patted both sides beside her for her teammates to come and sit down. But both of them glanced towards Naruto to see if they should. "Go ahead, have a seat," said Naruto. "We'll go ahead and start with introductions, then move on what we shall accomplish as a team." As Ucheo and Takia moved to sit down next to Uncle, one on either side. "I guess, since I'm your team leader and trainer, I'll get started. My name is Naruto Uchiha. I like ramen, my wife, my clan, Uncle, my friends, and the village. My immediate goal is to make you three the best team that ever comes out of Konoha. My dream is to bring peace to the Shinobi world, retire, and have a lot of grandkids," he said. Ucheo and Takia were staring at him wide-eyed, while Uncle simply smiled. It was no surprise seeing that Uncle already knew. On the other hand, the two were shocked, as they realized that he was more down to earth than they thought, as Naruto didn't want them to put him on some kind of pedestal. "Uncle, why don't you go next?" "Okay," she said. "My name is Uncle Mirashi. I like Dango, my mom, my dad, Minato Sensei and his team, Kushina-chan. My goal is to become a Chunin before I become 10, and my dream is to be known as the strongest Kunoichi in the world." As she grinned, looking back and forth between her two teammates, as Takia looked towards her, looking amused, while Ucheo gave the girl a critical eye. Before she could say a word though, Naruto turned towards the Kurama boy. "Takia, you're next." As the boy nodded, "My name is Takia Kurama, of the Kurama clan. I like genjutsus, my brother, and my uncle. I want to help heal people that is in need of it. My immediate goal," he paused as he looked up to the trees, "is to master my clan genjutsu techniques. And my dream is to get my clan to focus more on other things, not just genjutsu, so we won't be looked down upon by the other clans in the village." As Naruto hummed at that dream, as he looked towards the boy. In truth, he only knew one Kurama in his time, and that was Yakumo. And he only knew her because of the mission when he helped her defeat her darker half. But other than that, he had never seen the girl again. The Kuramas weren't so famous. As Naruto turned towards Ucheo, who couldn't look him in the eyes. "You're next, Ucheo," he said. She nodded. "My name is Ucheo Uzuki. We're not a clan, but my family has long dedicated history of serving the shinobis even before Konoha existed. I am from the 6th generation. I like training, spending time with my family, and my sword. My goal is to become a master in Kinjutsu, and my dream is to be a respected member of Anvu, so that I can protect my home and have a family someday as well," she said. Naruto clapped his hand. "Excellent goals and dreams, all of you," he said. "First order of business. There will be no further tests for you three. From now on, you're Team 7, understood?" As Ucheo and Takia looked towards him confused, while Uncle simply grinned. As Takia raised his hand, "You are not in a classroom," said Naruto. "You don't have to do that." "Just ask Takia," he said. "Okay, are you sure that we don't need to be tested? Our instructor made it seems like every team has to be tested." "Well, that is true," said Naruto. "But you see, it's based on what the Jonin Sensei thinks. I have already been training Uncle for the past couple of years, so I know what she's capable of. Neither of you two know it, but you were picked specially for this team. It was not random. And I also have faith that none of you will let me down, will you?" They shook their head negatively. "Good. Then that's all I need. I will train you into the ground. You will be better off. One thing as well. You can relax around me," said Naruto. "Yes, I am the husband of the Uchiha clan leader. and I fought bijoos and jinjurikis, and lived to tell the tale about it, amongst other things. But I am still Naruto, so there will be no Uchiha-sama. When you're around here, you can refer to me as Naruto, or Naruto-sensei, understood? Yes, Naruto-sensei, said Yujiro and Takia. Yes, Dad, Uncle said with a smile. As the other two turned towards Uncle confused, as Naruto sighed. What my dear uncle mean is, I tried to adopt her in the past, but because of clan laws, I could not apprentice someone in my own clan. So, she kept her name, but we still maintain a father-daughter relationship. That does not mean that she'll be getting any special treatment from me. Aw, you're no fun, Uncle says. She stick her tongue out at him. Anyway, all of you can take the rest of the day off, get some good rest, because training start full force tomorrow. I will be focusing on what you three specialize in, and train you to the best of my abilities. As Yujiro smiled at that, as she could get help with her kinjutsu. Any questions, he asked. They shook their heads no, as Naruto dismissed them. Once they were gone, you can come down now, said Naruto, as someone jumped out of the trees and landed, as it was Kushina. No fear, big brother, she said. No matter how hard I try to hide from you, you always seem to find me. Let's just say I cheat when I find you. Your presence is like a beacon to me. And she paused a bit. This about my special chakra again, she said. Over the past year, Naruto has been training quite a lot with Kushina. While she had been participating in plenty of missions, as a Jinjulke, they didn't want her wandering away too far away from Konoha. Therefore, her opportunities to take anything above C rank were very few and far between. While Minato was busy with training to become Hokage, and Mikoto was busy working with the Uchiha clan, Naruto took Kushina aside and helped her speed and combat wise. She was an all-brawl fighter like he used to be, though she was able to work her chakra chains into her techniques. With some experimentation, Naruto found out that he was able to use chains as well, but he was not as fluent as her. She seemed to just use it as an extension of her body. No concentration was needed, she just used it. As for Kurama, Naruto was approaching the time when he was going to tell her about Kurama, but in order for her to get along and use Kurama chakra without hurting herself, she needed to have a certain mindset. He was doing his best through training to prepare her, especially to be open-minded. If she went off on Kurama when they were introduced, the bijuu just might not work with her, through principle. They had been partnered for years, but Naruto could not speak for Kurama, and he was most likely grumpy after being locked away for so long. But having worked with Kushina for over a year now, Naruto was confident in her abilities, especially Tai and ninjutsu. Her Fuinjutsu was least above his, but she promised to help teach him with everything that he has been helping her with. In the last 2 months she had followed up on her promise, and began tutoring him in the art. She had also mellowed out quite a bit from the rambunctious teen that she used to be. Not to say that she wasn't still loud and didn't have her moments, but she was much more calmer. He had spoken to Hiruzen about this, and they believed that it was time. It's actually good that you came to spy my new team, said Naruto, because there's something I need to talk to you about. I need you to let me talk first before you say anything, okay? This might sound a bit confusing and crazy, but I will explain everything, I promise. She got a bit curious and a bit concerned at his tone. What is it, she asked. I need to talk to the Kyuubi, said Naruto. She raised her eyebrow at that. Time skip. It's about time that you show up, Naruto. Do you know how uncomfortable I was being held up like this? As Naruto winced as he looked at Kurama's condition, there was a giant earth spike through his stomach, and his tails were all pinned up, as he was on a slab of rock, just being held up in the air, suspended his tails, his arms and legs held up. The seal was really tight, not to mention there was chains, chakra chains restraining him. As Naruto looked towards Kushina, this was a bit much. On the other hand, Kushina was shocked. The fox knows you? How? Why did you never talk about this all this time, when we were training? You mean you still haven't told her yet? Idiot, said Kurama. You know I could not, said Naruto. We talked about this before, besides. It's not like you said anything either. Can you even see anything from here, Naruto asked. Besides from a few muffling, and unless Kushina come to visit me for some reason. No, said Kurama. And not to mention you know my history, so I was waiting on you to return. As Naruto turned back to Kushina, do you think you can let the poor guy down, said Naruto. That looks really uncomfortable. Damn right this. Nothing like getting an it and unable to scratch it. Not to mention the constant stomach ache. Kushina looked too stunned to say anything coherent, but her expression evened out as she sighed. She rubbed her forehead as she looked back and forth between Naruto and the fox. This is a dream, right? This is all just a dream, and I'll wake up at any moment. As Naruto chuckled a bit at that. I'm afraid it's not, said Naruto. I will tell you everything, but first, can you put him down? I'm sure Krama would really like to stretch his legs. Wait, Krama? Yeah, that's a big fuzzball name. Hey, I'm not a fuzzball, you brat. I swear, when I get down from here, said Krama, as he bared his teeth at Naruto, but Naruto simply shrugged him off. As Kushina narrowed her eyes at the fox threat, as Naruto realized that she was, well, afraid a bit. So he stepped forward. So he says. But you know what? I think he's just a big fuzzball, who likes to get scratched behind the ear. But you don't hear that from me, said Naruto. As he did not actually whisper, and Kurama heard him, as he growled. As Kushina looked towards Fox. Pet behind the ear, you say, she said. Yeah, said Naruto. And if you get the right spot sometime, his back leg does this little kicking thing. Kurama growled as he turned his head, as he looked quite embarrassed. Kushina squealed as she lifted up her shirt, as the seal appeared as she started to undo it a bit. But before it could go any further, another seal appeared, stopping it from spreading too far. But the chains receded and the spikes melted away, as Kurama dropped, the ground shaking a bit. As Naruto moved over to greet his old friend who was stretching, as he beckoned for Kushina to follow him, as she did, but a bit behind him. Yo, sorry it took me so long to get here. I tried to do as much as I can before I came to get you, since I know once I did, things would start to change drastically. As Naruto raised his fist, Kurama smirked as he bumped Naruto's fist with his own, symbolizing your friendship after working together for years now. Well, you weren't an idiot for once and you actually followed the plan, so I can't complain too much. As Naruto looked towards Kushina, who was still shocked as hell. Kushina-chan, said Naruto, allow me to properly introduce you to my best friend and partner, Kurama, also known as his demon lordship, the nine-tailed fox, and fuzzball, and Kurama swatted Naruto away with one of his nails. What have I told you about calling me fuzzball? You bird brain. Naruto picked himself up. Hey, I'm not a bird brain. As Kurama snorted, he was about to say something until Kushina dropped to the ground as she burst out laughing. The scene was too amusing. As Naruto smiled, well, it seems that they got her to warm up to the idea that this was actually going on. Time skip. So let me get this straight. You're from an alternate universe, future, where I was your mother, Minato was your father, Ren and Obito were dead, Kakashi was a tardy pervert, and you've only met Mikoto once, and you and her son were rival until you had to fight, and you end up killing him. In the Fourth Great Ninja War, you and Kurama made up, and become best friends, and you had been fighting for a few more years until you found the old seal in Osa ruins to bring you back to this time. As the both of them were in the training ground, as Naruto had made sure that no one was here using some clones. Yep, that pretty much sums it up, said Naruto. It seems far-fetched. Yes it is, she said. If you told me this by yourself I wouldn't believe you. But with Kurama agreeing to everything, and not to mention the Hokage making you his right-hand man, so he must trust you. As she went silent, she then finally spoke, Naruto? As Naruto looked towards her. Is it strange, you seen me, and not calling me Mom? As she looked rather nervous, she reminded him of Hinata as she looked that way. He chuckled a bit. At first, yes, but it didn't last for too long. I met you very briefly in my own ceiling matrix, when we spoke that one time. But when I got here and you put me into the role of her big brother, I guess it's just changed things a lot, said Naruto. Kushina laughed a bit. What is it, he said, as she hid her face. Nothing really. Well, it's funny right now, but when me and Mikoto-san was in the bath and Ursenyi was talking, and you came there, I started to crush on you a little bit. Of course it was rather weird since I still love Minato at the same time, but I was also interested in you. As Naruto froze at that, he wasn't sure how to respond. I'm flattered, he said, but it wouldn't have worked out. As she laughed at that. Hey, can I still call you big brother, she asked. Of course, said Naruto. Besides, when you and Minato have kids, I would like to be the uncle that gets to spoil them. As she did not respond, instead she rushed up to him as she hugged him. As Naruto looked down towards her, "Thank you, big brother Naruto," she said. "Thank you." "Oh, of course." As they broke apart after a while, "So, what should I do now?" said Naruto. "I mean, am I the only one that knows this, other than Hokage-sama?" "Of course Hokage-sama knew as well, right?" "Yes," said Naruto. "He was the first one to know, but there are actually several other people as well. Maybe 8, though I only told 5. Can you tell me who she asks?" "Sure. Well, there's the Hokage, Danzo Shimura, Hatake Sakamu, Inoichi Yamanaka, the 2 elders, and Mikoto." "Inoichi? Really?" she said. "Well, in my time I knew him quite well, and he was a person I trusted to enter my mind, to show them that I was not lying when I first appeared." Kushina nodded. "Mikoto knows as well. I knew I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. She hasn't said a word to me about it. Well, she's my wife. I didn't want her to marry me and not know who I really am. I think her father also knows some things, but I don't know how much Hokage or Mikoto has told him. I haven't told him anything though, and he hasn't asked me yet. He just seemed to know some things," said Naruto. "As for not telling you anything, you're the one that does all the talking." She stuck her tongue out at him. As there was a brief moment of silence. "Hey, I was thinking that there was a way that we could change our seals a bit, to allow Kurama consciousness to travel between us." "What? How?" "Well, I still have some of Kurama chakra inside of me," said Naruto. "Though, I haven't used any of it, obviously. I did need people to start asking questions, even though you also look like you want to ask from time to time. I'm pretty sure in your practice my control has slipped, and you felt it." Naruto grinned a bit as Kushina gave him a knowing look and a small nod. "I didn't really think that much about it before, but now that you mention it, yes." Naruto grinned. "Anyway, I don't know if the bijuu chakra inside my seal will regenerate without having him inside there. I was thinking of using something similar to Minato Harashin to allow him to move back and forth between us. If I can do that, if Tobi ever come for you, Kurama can move over to me, and there wouldn't be anything that he has to remove from you. He would be confused as hell." Having heard the horror story of her death, Kushina immediately brightened. "You think that will work?" she asked. "Well, I don't know for sure since I never heard of anything that be done before, but I think it's worth a shot, right?" She thought about it for a moment as she agreed. "You're right," she said. "It's been a while since I bothered doing any Funju's research, and I don't have to bother fighting someone I don't have to. Because I promise no child of mine would grow up without a parent." As she was staring at him so confidently when she said that, as Naruto released a sigh and relaxed. "Thank you," he said. She looked at him. "The way you sigh, was that your objective all along?" "A part of it," said Naruto. "I don't want you, Minato, or Mikoto to die, obviously. But there may come a time or two when I have to borrow Kurama for a mission, or take care of someone or something, before it becomes a serious problem. Assuming that we can get the transport to work, I mean." As she thought about it for a moment, as she nodded. "On one condition," she said. What is it?" "Teach me how to use Kurama chakra," she said. As this did not surprise him. "If you think about it, I've already been teaching you to have an open mind to several prospects in our training," said Naruto. "That is the first step, but it will be up to you to befriend Kurama on your own, and prove to him that he can trust you." "So how do I do that?" "Well, start by talking to him." "That's what I did, and now we're best friends," said Naruto. The moment he finished, she dropped down to the ground and she crossed her legs. "Alright, I'll get started on it." "Don't take things a bit too fast," said Naruto. "That will just annoy him. Get to know him normally." She looked like she was not listening and she didn't laugh. "What's so funny?" "Kurama heard you," she said. "He said you should stop talking, because you're the annoying one." As Naruto's eye twitched. "Next time I see that furball, I'm gonna teach him a lesson," he said. As Kushina giggled a bit before she closed her eyes and focused. As Naruto leaned on and gave her a kiss on the forehead, as he decided to leave her to do her thing. As he had another meeting to get to. Time skip. Enter. As Naruto entered the office to see Hiruzen, but he was not alone. Naruto-kun. Thank you for showing up. Since you're both here, we can begin now. The next person that was in there was none other than Orochimaru. Yes, Sensei, Orochimaru said quietly. Orochimaru watches Hiruzen fold his arms. Orochimaru, would you like to explain to me the purposes behind your laboratories? The snake wheeler tilted his head. I've already explained their functions to you, Sensei. Yes, about most of them. I'm talking about the two that we discovered in Sector B4 and the one in Sector 7. I don't recall you telling me about either of those. My apologies, Sensei. Those labs are just for storage. I don't think that it was important to list them out. Harrison cleared his throat. Perhaps I should start over. Orochimaru, I would like to introduce you to Naruto Uchiha, the 6th Hokage. Orochimaru was just confused. 6? But didn't you just decide to name the 4th? Not to mention the 5th? As Harrison chuckled a bit, seeing the confusion on his student's face. Well, I knew who the 5th might have been, but it's only a matter of time for the war to be done before Minato takes up his position full time. But let's not wander too far, and instead, let's cut to the chase. Naruto can hear from the future. He traveled back to the past using a complex seal that was found in the ruins of Uzu. Orochimaru's eyes instantly light up hearing that. A seal, you say? Can we organize a group to send to? Harrison shook his head, cutting him off. I already dispatched a group to destroy that particular seal. Naruto is only one of the knowledge with that seal, unless a dire situation arises once again, where he has to force to use it. That is the only way that it will come back out. As Orochimaru was surprised by that dire situation, as he focused on Naruto, we were in the middle of the Fourth Great Shinobi War, and we were losing badly. Konoha was losing? No. The entire world was losing against one madman, said Naruto. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Are you trying to imply that that was me? Naruto shook his head. No, to the best of my knowledge, you're dead. A year before the war started, the man was stunned to his core. What? Dead? How? A man named Sasuke Uchiha. Orochimaru looked between the both of them, gazing their reaction, before he spoke once again. Am I to assume that this little meeting is to ask for my cooperation in whatever I'm doing in exchange of having this Sasuke Uchiha taken care of? That won't be necessary, said Naruto, since Sasuke will no longer exist as a person as he was. He was my classmate from the future I'm from, remember? Yes, and, said Orochimaru, he was Sasuke Uchiha. Now, I am Naruto Uchiha. As he won't appear in this time, things have changed too much. In me marrying his mother, said Naruto. Wait, you mean Minato Uchiha? Yes, my wife, said Naruto. She was his mother in my time. She was married to Fukaku. I see. So what is the purpose of me being here, Orochimaru asked, as Naruto sat and sit down on one of the chairs, as he tried to show the man that he was relaxed. I have convinced the old man that while you became a monster in my time, you were still a genius. You came up with many techniques and things that were quite practical and important. The only problem was giving you something that would keep you interested, because you did not truly become a monster until you start to experiment on children and newborns that you took from the orphanage, directly from parents sometimes. Within Konoha, said Naruto. To Orochimaru's credit, the man looked shocked and horrified, even sickened. It seems like he hasn't fallen that far yet. That was very good. It is no secret that you have aspirations for the Hokage position, but I'm going to tell you that now. You should give that up. It will be pointless to put someone with your talent behind a desk, doing paperwork all day. After brainstorming a bit, the old man and I have come up with some good ideas that we like to run by you. The two of them then started to explain the situation to the Snake Summoner from the beginning, from what they knew about him. Naruto had to fill in most of the information based on Orochimaru that he knew once upon a time, while they were adamant on him not experimenting on young children anymore. They were okay with his experiments as long as there was no abductions. Asking for volunteers and paying for their services was something that Harrison was willing to have the village fund to a certain extent. Harrison was also going to allow lethal experiments on notorious bad criminals, bandits, mutants, and the very ill. But even that will be under strict observation. Essentially, we want you to be in charge of a new division in Konoha. You will report directly to the Hokage, whoever the Jonin commander is at the time, and also myself. You will focus on medical advancement and the creation of advanced medical shinobis, while at the same time under the radar and performing subterfuge operations. Orochimaru sat there as he absorbed all of this. He could do more out in the open, as he wouldn't have to hide some of his research. We realized that some of your experiments will be too risky to keep here in Konoha, but Naruto-kun has come up with a good idea. In your point in his time, you had left the village and went off to create your own village, called the Stone Village in the Land of Rice Field. He said that it wasn't truly a village, but system of caves and bunkers that you use for your operation. Orochimaru turned towards the blonde who nodded. It is true. I suggest that you recreate at least some of it after the war ends, and make better use for the Fuma clan than you did last time around. Not only that, but I have a list of people that you should keep eye out for, who work under you, and would probably work for you again. Keep in mind that most of them hadn't been born yet, so this will have to wait until a few years, said Naruto. Unlike when you make sound on your own, you will have the backing of Konoha this time. A lot of the other villages will be upset with us, making bases all over, but at the same token, we've held back from this war because the other villages know how powerful we are. Once we enter the war, the ending will be swift and decisive, so no one will bat your eye. We will tell them that this is the best way to make sure peace will be maintained. I see, Orochimaru said after a long while of a pause. Is there anything else, he asked. Naruto and Hiruzen looked at each other, as Hiruzen shook his head. Not right now, said Naruto, no. Start coming up with plans and pass it by us. If you have any questions about the future, you can ask me. I will tell you what I can, but keep in mind I would like to keep things as close to the original time as possible, so we can have some kind of warning about what will happen. There is already a bunch of things that have changed as time is dragging on, so I will be doing more guests than anything else. I understand, Orochimaru said. If you may excuse me, Sensei, I have a lot to write down, and I shall run it by you and Naruto-san later. Am I permitted to ask Navi and Jiraiya for their assistance? So as long as you do it tomorrow, our next meeting is with them, so we can bring them up to speed. Thank you, Sensei, as Orochimaru nodded Naruto as well. As he left, I think that went well, as Naruto nodded towards Hiruzen. That it did. I was trying not to imagine all sorts of horrible scenarios, but since he will be having constant constellation with both of us, we can keep him behave and around this time. I agree. If not, I have confidence that you or I could put him down. Anyway, would you like to get something to eat before the other meeting? Sure, anything in mind, said Naruto, as a thought popped into his head as he remembered how the last time Hiruzen tried to put Orochimaru down went. Well, rumors have it, this good ramen place where you and Minato often visit. Time skip. The meeting between the two other Sanins were as Naruto expected. Jiraiya quickly asked Naruto about his book from the future, as he wanted to know if he succeed. As for Navi, she always knew that there was something up with Naruto, but she never thought that it was this. It was a bit of a surprise, but the both of them kept themselves calm, as Navi will be helping Orochimaru with the medical research, and Naruto and Jiraiya will have a chat with Nagato. And not to mention, Hiruzen would go and speak to Danzo to make sure he had no dealings with Hanzo. From what Naruto had heard when he spoke to Nagato in his last battle, that was the man's major turning point after his friend died, Yaiko. And if they can prevent that, a lot will change. After that, Naruto found himself in another meeting. I understand. Were you able to get any of them to agree to the move? As the man shook his head towards Mikoto. No, Mikoto-sama. Very well, dismissed, she said. The man nodded to her and Naruto as he left. Once he was gone, Mikoto plopped over on the ground as she released a long sigh. Tired, said Naruto, as she simply tossed him a small glare. Of course I am. Listening to people whine and complain all day really take a lot out of you, she said. That's true, said Naruto, but at least it is nowhere near of what it was when we first started. As she nodded to that. When they just started, things were a lot more hectic. Things were just winding down now. As she gave him a look. What is it? I've been thinking lately. As she paused, as Naruto realized she was waiting for him to say something. About? I want to start a family, she said. Having uncle around made me think about it more and more. As the blonde felt his heart jump at that. He was already ready 6 months ago, but things were still a lot hectic so he didn't want to push anything if she was under stress, and not to mention if it may mess with her health and regarding the baby. So they put things off and waited. As know that things were winding down, well, it was a good time. If you feel you're ready, I'm good whenever, said Naruto, as she chuckled at that, as she went on her hands and knees. What if I say I'm ready now? Asked Naruto raised her eyebrow as she started to crawl towards him. What? Here? Are you serious? As she hummed to herself, as she kept on crawling towards him. Where was the shy Minato when they first started to talk? Well, after reading one of Jiraiya's manuscripts along with Kushina, it seems that both girls had discovered something about themselves. Not to mention, she realized how much power she had over him. Well, not that he had a problem with that sometimes. The book had gave her a wider perspective on the bedroom and many other things that they had tried. Shouldn't we at least block the door? I have no more scheduled meetings, she said. There should be no one in this building. Well, there is always those that came by for short, important talks, said Naruto. That's true, she said, as she was already right upon him as she was speaking, as she was able to use his shoulder to pull herself up as she sat right in his lap, as her hand started to play with the zipper in the front of his vest, slowly pulling it down. We do tend to make a lot of noise, you know. I haven't put up any signs and seals around here, so Naruto was cut off as she pressed her lips against his. As she pulled back, I want a bed, darling, she said, as Naruto flashed away with her. As they arrived in their bedroom, I guess a good thing I know the Harishin. Just don't tell Minato yet, okay? As he gave her a wink. Her surprised look turned into a rather sultry one. You want my silence? Well, it's gonna cost you. Well, how much, said Naruto playing along. Quite a lot, I'm afraid. As she licked her lips. So you better get ready, because I'm afraid it's gonna take all night. Time skip. 2 years later. Are you serious? Water Country surrendered? As Naruto chuckled a bit, seeing the look on his wife's face. It was the same one he had when Hiruzen and Takumo had confirmed it. As Naruto grabbed the tea on the counter and sat down, as his wife and their son was around the table. Yes, their son. Every time he saw the boy, it was just, well, wonderful. Minato was torn in the beginning if she wanted their son to have the same name as his counterpart, but they left it up to fate as he was born a boy. So, another Itachi was born in this world. He was just about a year and a half old. It was still too soon to see which parents he resembled, as he still had that chubby fat face, but given his dark brown eyes and his black hair, it seemed like he would most likely favor his mother. But he didn't have any whisker marks, as Naruto spoke to Kurama about this. It was probably because the bijuu was inside of him when it happened, so it didn't transfer over anything to the boy, despite Naruto having the chakra inside of him. Yes, both Hiruzen and Takumo confirmed it. I was surprised that it happened so soon, but given how weak they must be after losing so much of their bloodline clans, I guess it was to be expected. We still have no idea why they entered the war in the first place. And no Yagura is missing. That was another bad thing that happened in the past 2 years. As Naruto watched as Minato took the spoon away from Itachi as he was making a mess. As for Yagura, he went missing, and not to mention, the Jinchuriki for Saiki in the Six Tails is also gone. And this wasn't so good at all. So, our secret pact with Kumo worked out then, she said. As Naruto nodded. Better than I think. Anyone would have believed, said Naruto. With us working together, we can force Hidden Stone to stay isolated. They've been focusing more on the stand than us, and I think Wind Country is really starting to feel the pressure. Konoha will just cut the stone off, while Kumo can either help or go in for the kill. That was our agreement. What if the Water Country, said Minato, as she took Itachi in her lap because he started to bang both hands on the table. As Naruto chuckled as seeing the boy wrestling around. Would you like to feed him, she said. No, said Naruto. I went through the same thing last night. As he raised his hand and no thank you gesture as he looked towards the boy. To answer your earlier question, we're going to retain control of the country until the end of the war, and afterwards we're going to release it. They were too weak, and they never should have entered in the first place. They will have to rebuild now. They may never be considered part of the great fight again. Part of me feels sorry for them, she said. What was the Mizukage? Ow! Itachi, do not pull! As the boy had reached for her hair and started to drag it, as she slowly untwined his fingers around from her hair. Well, we know the Mizukage wasn't really himself. From the little that we know, I have to believe that the third, or Tobi or Madara, or whatever name or title he's going by now, is still alive and active. And he has been using the fourth as a puppet. Now that his power base has crumbled, it makes me wonder what he's gonna do next. Do you think he will try to get another Kage under his control? Asked Mikoto. He might try, said Naruto as he sipped his tea. But there's no other Kages with bijuu sealed inside of them. The Sharingan mind control for extent would only last without a bijuu for about a month or least. And people would start to see the subtle changes in their leader. I hope, said Naruto. She glanced towards her husband. Sometimes she forgot that he had fight someone with a Sharingan for the second part of his life mostly, because there was just so much that he knew about Sharingan. It was shocking most of the time, not to mention when they spar and she activated her Sharingan. He did not look her in the eyes. He was able to predict her movements using her feet and hands. As she helped Itachi finish off his dinner, there was a knock at the front door. As Naruto got to his feet, a moment later he returned, with Minato. As Minato smiled. Hey there Mikoto, he said. Sorry to bother you tonight. After that short introduction, he moved towards Itachi as he started to make funny faces. Itachi laughed as he wagged his hand up in the air to try and grab Minato. It's fine. Itachi is all fed, and will likely fall asleep soon. So tell me, what brings you here? Minato looked up from where he was kneeling. Business, I'm afraid. Hokage-sama has asked me that Naruto and his team join mine on a backup mission. Kakashi just made Jonin, and this will be his first assignment as a field leader, but Hiruzen suggested that we have a backup team just in case. Any particular reason, said Naruto. Not that he was shared with me, Minato said. After a brief pause he continued. Our mission, take us to our country border. At the Kanebe Bridge, it needs to be destroyed to keep the stone forces out of the grass country. Otherwise they will use it to get their supplies past the border. Hokage-sama want to keep them pinned down, so that they cannot spread their forces. But there has to be dozens of bridges, even along the border of grass country alone, said Mikoto, as she picked up Itachi, as he was finally starting to show some tiredness, as his head was resting on his mother's shoulder. Minato nodded and mentioned the same thing, but apparently this one that they want to stake out is the main one in the area, and a lot of traffic goes through it. There are no other bridges in at least 3-day walking distance. The canyon is too large, so this bridge is the one that they will take. Even so, said Mikoto, shouldn't it just be a surgical team to take care of this mission? It's just blowing up a bridge. Why do they need 3 Jonins and 5 Chunins to handle it? Will it be that well defended? Hokage-sama wants to be well prepared for any contingencies. He doesn't know what the enemy strength will be like. There could be upwards of a battalion guarding it. I think it's overkill, but the Hokage assigned the mission. Then so be it, said Mikoto. As she was speaking to Minato, she noticed Naruto. There was a slight jump in his movement. As if it was anyone else, they would barely notice anything. You had to be looking at him critically to notice it. It was just a slight movement. As she figured that he knew something about this that he was not saying. But Minato spoke up. Mikoto, you're just upset I'll be tearing your husband away from you for about a week. We will be fine, he said. She looked towards her old teammate as a grin spread across her face, frightening him. Yes, I'm sure that Kushina will miss you too. We'll have to come up with something while they're gone, so when you return, you will never want to leave again. Minato swallowed harshly as he turned towards Naruto. What have you been teaching her? She never used to be like this. Who said this, me, said Naruto. I know Kushina-chan's a pretty corrupted influence by herself. Anything else Mikoto picked up, she did on her own, said Naruto. But you guys will be in subs right here. If you want to see next parts, and do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay tuned for the brand new episodes coming over on Anime King and Anime King 3. If you're new, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button. Become a part of the Anime King family, and thank you for all your help and support. And yeah, without further ado guys, I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Remember to stay tuned because our next episode will be coming over and making of what if Naruto was an alien hybrid. So stay tuned for that and I hope you enjoy. Yeah, I'm off now. Peace. See you guys.